Well, the other aspect, even as the entire country was focused on the by-poll elections and the results in Uttar Pradesh and in Bihar, there was a development and a major one in the south of India, in Chennai, in a special CBI court. Because where after the acquittals in the 2G spectrum and others housing scam, the discharge of Marans brothers in the telephone exchange case has come as the latest setback for the CBI. While questions are being raised over the CBI's investigations, the probe agency has said it is shocked by the discharge and will be filing an appeal in the Madras High Court against the discharge of former telecom minister Dayanidhi Maran and his brother Kalanidhi Maran. Now, this is what is being said. The case is illegal telephone exchange. The prosecution has failed to prove the charges, is what the court has said. Once again, the onus on the CBI. Plenty of developments, no prima facie evidence against the Marans is what they say. And they also turn around and have said the discharge petition of the Marans is upheld. This is what Dayanidhi Maran has to turn around and say when he spoke to me earlier in the evening.
I have not done anything wrong, and all these cases were all false cases foisted on us. And the irony of the situation is that both the cases which were filed on me were thrown away by the courts, stating that it's not worth enough to go for a trial. So understand that my plea was that listen to my side, but unfortunately the media had sensationalized it and made a mountain out of a molehill, and no one was ready to listen to our side. Unfortunately, he's a liar, and I think he's becoming demented also. He's a power broker and he's a business broker. So I have now no good opinion about him. Whose government is this? In fact, I have written to the Prime Minister stating that Gurumurthy was interfering in the case and trying to influence the case. And the Prime Minister's office has ordered a vigilance inquiry into this against Gurumurthy based on my complaint. Because this is the lies put by Gurumurthy. And from day one, I'm saying there's nothing of that kind. It is all exaggerated lies, sensationalized lies. They started the case with saying it's about more than thousands of crores. Then the case came to around 700 crores. Then it came to 300 crores. Then now it ended up in 1.2 crores. Then they tried hard and made it to 1.78 crores. And I said, it's not at all true. It's all false. Please listen to my side of the story. But no one was ready. It's been so many years for truth to triumph. I have now stand vindicated. I never ran away from the country. I believed in our judiciary system, and I went to the courts. We went with a clean hands and open mind, and we argued our case. And that's the reason we were able to win. I'm so happy that justice has triumphed today, because I believed in the judiciary system. It worked in my favor. All you have to ask now is, why did CBI put such a false and weak case on Marans? You should ask that question to CBI. People have the right to know why the CBI put such a fake case on me. The people have the right to know. As much as you have the right to know, I have the right to know. Why did they put such a fake case when there's no evidence against me?
Dayanidhi Maran asks, why did they present such a fake case and such a weak case to the CBI? And then he turns around and the person who raised his voice for the public the loudest, he turns around and questions that person and calls him fake, calls him a liar, calls him demented, and also calls him a power broker. That person joins us live on the Newshour tonight. On the Newshour Opinion, we have Mr. S. Gurumurthy joining us. Mr. Gurumurthy, good evening, sir. You heard what Dayanidhi Maran said, but first I want to ask you, how would you respond to the developments in court today?
It is really shocking. It's a fraud on the criminal jurisprudence, and shame on the CBI that a case like this should get dismissed even before the prosecution opened the evidence. It has been settled at the stage of the framing of the charge itself, saying that the CBI has failed to prove the case. There is nothing to prove, because proof comes only when you begin letting in evidence. Now the special court seems to have decided, by looking at the charge sheet, that no offence is made out. it's a very shocking kind of decision, because the facts I will narrate to you. There are over 700 telephone lines which were installed in two places, both were Marans houses, between January and June 2005. In this period, they were high speed lines and they were connected by an underground cable to the Sun TV office. All these are on record. And for 6 months these lines functioned, and the CBI in its first investigation found that these lines would have cost at least 400 crores. 323 lines alone would have cost 400 crores if they had been operated. But since they were kept outside the billing system, it was a separate telephone exchange by itself. It was not part of the normal telephone exchange, and they were kept in Marans' house in the name of the chief general manager of BSNL, as if these 323 lines were being operated by him, but it was actually connected by an underground cable to Sun TV, and Sun TV programs were being uploaded. This was the CBI allegation. And
but Mr.
in this, what is the amount of loss?
But Mr. Gurumurthy, the fact is that the CBI charge sheet does not mention the illegal data uplink at all. That is also true, Mr. Gurumurthy.
That's what I'm saying. If 764 telephone lines are not involved, just for the heck of it, they were installed for using it, and they were connected by an underground cable to Sun TV. So it was not, it was installed in Marans' name by Marans' house in a false name. First of all, it is a false name in the chief general manager's name, kept out of the telephone exchange system itself. These 323 lines and 440 lines had a separate telephone numbering system, which was not in the billing, which was not in the computer. It was not known. It could have been used for highly anti-national purposes. In fact, a telephone line being kept outside the telephone system is a national security risk. Maran himself, as telecom minister, sat in a meeting, and when such telephone lines were used in wrong names, they should be prosecuted for national security breach, was one of the decisions taken by the telecom ministry. How can 700 odd lines be kept outside complete monitoring, completely free for use, and the gateway was allocated for that? It's not just a case of billing issue. And at that time, the Tamil Nadu was very, very intensely fighting LTTE activities. And the relative of one of the persons who was the chief general manager, in whose name these telephones were kept, was arrested under the National Security Act for being an LTTE operative. These are huge issues.
These are arguments that you have talked about, you have written, and you have made in public. It is all there. But Mr. Dayanidhi Maran says, let's go by what the CBI has filed, and in that charge sheet, and as per that charge sheet, this is my reply. And that is why he has turned around and said that Mr. Gurumurthy is a liar, he is demented, and Mr. Gurumurthy is a power broker. That's what he is calling you, Mr. Gurumurthy.
It is all easy for him to say, because in this country nobody can ever point a finger at me for any wrongdoing. 25 years my tax files have been under investigation. I have always fought against hostile governments. I just don't bother about Marans. I am only bothered about the truth. Why did he, for all that I am asking, I am just sorry to intervene. He challenged me with a lawsuit. Why didn't he file the lawsuit? In 2010, he threatened me with a lawsuit. I said, file it. He didn't. Why? If I am the liar, he should have thrown me into jail. And 4 years the UPA government was in power. So it is very easy.
Yes.
It is very easy to abuse a person but it is very difficult to confront facts.
But that is exactly what he is also saying. His counter is the same thing, Mr. Gurumurthy, that people sat in primetime debates, maligned me without facts. My part of the story and my side was never put forth, and they just manufactured a lot of aspects which he calls fake and fiction.
Let him first explain why 323 high-speed telephone lines were installed in his house in the name of the Chief General Manager and connected to the Sun TV by an underground cable, and why it was kept outside the telephone system.
But that is the point, Mr. Gurumurthy. That is where it all hinges, doesn't it, sir? You are talking about it, but Mr. Maran is saying, why is it not there in the charge sheet in the first place? Why did the court uphold my appeal then?
That is the problem. It is the court and the CBI which have lost their credibility today. Marans' credibility has not been enhanced by this kind of poor prosecution. Today, the state in which we are today, you know what happens in a mighty 2G prosecution. When somebody is discharged wholesale, it is not that the people who have been discharged, they become credible. It is the court which has lost its credibility. So on the basis of this judgment, if somebody says, I have done no wrong, let him come and have a debate with me. Leave aside the judgment. Leave aside the discharge. And another thing, that such lines were installed in his house and kept outside, it prima facie requires a trial. How can the court say it doesn't even require a trial? I can understand if he is discharged after a trial. If he is acquitted after the trial also, I can understand the magistrate, the court should have applied its mind.
But tell me, Mr. Gurumurthy, my final two questions to you. What do you think should happen now? Who should be held accountable? Who is responsible for this discharge petition being upheld if you are blaming the investigating authorities?
Obviously, the CBI officers who came from Delhi specifically to prosecute the case, keeping aside the man who really investigated the case, and they should be asked questions. And if the CBI has any shame, it will file an appeal against this, investigate the case thoroughly, and relaunch the prosecution. Otherwise, this can lead to huge problem. Any minister can do it tomorrow. Why not for 1,000 lines? Why not 2,000 lines?
My last question to you, sir. My last question to you, sir. Are you open for a public debate with Mr. Dayanidhi Maran, because you are ready to challenge his facts? You are asking him why didn't he file a lawsuit against you? You are ready to challenge him in court. I am asking you, are you open for a public debate with Mr. Dayanidhi Maran?
100% if he is willing. But he must first begin answering from the time I began writing this. Why didn't he file the defamation case against me? He threatened. From that time onwards, he cannot start with what the court judgment is. He has to talk to me, dehoor the court judgment.
Well, we will see if Mr. Maran agrees, and we would like to do it on the Newshour. S. Gurumurthy versus Dayanidhi Maran on the telephone scam, because the bigger question is, under this government, the current establishment that promised conviction. Mr. Gurumurthy, as I thank you, we open up the debate on the Newshour tonight. Is the corruption conviction ratio of the BJP abysmal? Is it a cause for concern? It's a straightforward question we are asking. Let's open up the debate here.
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 3, on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Ashutosh Mishra, Dr. Suman C. Raman, good evening. But first, I'm going to set up the DMK, Saravanan and Narayanan Tirupati in the verses here on the Newshour tonight. Mr. Narayanan Tirupati, how did these people walk free if they were so corrupt? If there was Ajibaji, 764 lines, 2 residences, parallel telephone exchange, yet the court says you have not been able to prove the case to the CBI.
Yes, this is very unfortunate that the court has given this verdict today. They have discharged Mr. Maran from this wrongdoing. And one thing is that Mr. Maran says that it was a foisted case, but he should come clean saying who foisted this case against him, during which tenure the DMK was in charge of that ministry even after Mr. Maran left. So who foisted this case? Why they foisted this case? What was the conspiracy? When was the conspiracy? Why was the conspiracy? All these things I think he has to make public before abusing Mr. Gurumurthy. I think I expect Mr. Maran definitely to say this. And as far as this discharge is concerned, there is a Supreme Court judgment also saying that in prevention of corruption charges, definitely a trial should be made and then only they can discharge the person. That is what. So definitely the CBI, I hope, will go for appeal on this and do justice.
No, but that is an easy way to go get away from it, because Mr. Saravanan, who argued the case, will now say all the allegations made in public are absent in the charge sheet.
No, Anand, I think, see, what do you expect a BJP government to do in this? What do you expect a BJP government to do in this?
Sir, we expect the BJP government to haul up these officers by their collars and ask them that what won us the elections you are unable to prove in court.
This case is failed.
I am being blunt, sir. What won you the public sentiment? What won you the elections? You are unable to prove in court. You keep saying corruption, but there is no conviction. What do I tell you, sir? What do I say?
You are an educated person. Anand Narasimhan, you are a well-known educated person. You are definitely, you will understand that this is a CBI case in CBI court where we cannot interfere.
Oh, no, you can.
But if something goes wrong,
right now you are saying you cannot interfere, but you can turn around and question the prosecutor who is representing the government and say what is the prosecutor doing and what is the prosecution doing, because there has to be somewhere you have to question, sir. Otherwise,
we say it is unfortunate.
Sir, otherwise,
we say it is unfortunate.
If I as public
BJP
believe,
says it is unfortunate,
then
definitely there should be an appeal.
Mr. Narayanan Tirupati, never ever Please tell your leaders never ever to come out in public and say that we will ensure that these people are convicted. We will ensure that the corrupt are put behind bars and they are punished. They should never make that promise then. They should never make that promise then, Mr. Narayanan Tirupati.
Even he has abused, Mr. Maran has abused the media also. You accept that media did something wrong in it?
No, sir. Mr. Maran is ready. He has got the right to hold his point of view. He will always plead not guilty. He will always turn around and they say that the media obfuscated facts. But the fact is, I can't go and fight this. I can't go and fight this on behalf. I can't go and fight this on behalf of the CBI. The prosecutor has to do it. I can't file the charge sheet. The CBI has to do it. But if the CBI itself said it's an open and shut case, it was an ex-CBI. It was a CBI officer who first blew the whistle. What is the net result? Saravanan, please answer. Saravanan, please answer. Saravanan.
Yeah. Anand, see, the CBI can prosecute only if there is a case. If there is no case and it is only propped up by empty words of the people who are uncredible, the likes of Mr. Gurumurthy. You look recently, the Delhi High Court pulled him up for purveying fake news. He cast aspersions on the judge just because he did not like the verdict. This is his pattern. This is not the first time. He criticized the Advocate General, the Attorney General, who appeared in this case. He found fault with the Supreme Court, who granted anticipatory bail to Mr. Dayanidhi Maran. He criticized the Attorney General. He wrote a column for that. See, if we don't, he does not like our ideology. He has to fight us through ideology. He has to show how his ideology is superior, not by this mudslinging. And this is not the first time.
He has gone to the court.
He says that we should file a case against him. He is not worth filing a case, worth filing a lawsuit, when what he speaks is only pure lies, as pointed out by Mr. Dayanidhi Maran. And this case, as pointed out by him, is clearly baseless charges. Mr. Gurumurthy was making lot of allegations about those 320 lines, and you were asking a very, very pertinent question. What happened to those allegations in the charge sheet? It did not find place in the charge sheet because it did not happen as alleged by Mr. Gurumurthy. So whom do you believe? The CBI or Mr. Gurumurthy?
Exactly.
Gurumurthy is ideologically opposed to us. He is using his prominence to the political parties, to the powers that be, and want to defame us.
No.
That is what has happened, and the court is given us.
Sir, there are multiple. Mr. Narayanan Tirupati, as I open up the debate, sir, there is one more person who is questioning the CBI and who is appalled, and he is also questioning the current government at the centre. It is the BSNL officer who blew the whistle on this entire telephone exchange scam. We were able to get in touch with Mr. Madhivanan. This is what he said. Now the BSNL officer and the whistleblower in the Maran brothers illegal exchange case speaking to Times Now. His pension was stopped, he was punished for unearthing a scam, and today he's appalled. Listen in.
Shocking and amazing. Immediately after the judgment of the 2G Spectrum Raja case, it is the second judgment. I am very much upset, not with the judiciary, the way this government handles this case through CBI. Our Honorable Prime Minister declared war on corruption, but every corrupt fellow is getting out of the loop through courts. So the CBI has not argued its case either well in the court or not filed the charge sheet properly.
Sumansi Raman, what about those people?
Anand,
who blew the whistle?
I find this whole case extremely curious for two reasons. Now, the key issue that needs to be clarified is whether there were any lines which were actually running from the minister's house to the Sun TV office, as Mr. Gurumurthy claims. Now, either those lines existed or they did not exist, right? So, if they did not exist, then absolutely that is one part of the issue is resolved. The second part is, it has still not been satisfactorily explained why 760 odd lines would be needed, including 323 high-speed lines, would be needed at the residence of a telecom minister. Now, these two, have never been satisfactorily explained. And I think that what we need to do is, irrespective of whether Mr. Maran is guilty or not, the CBI needs to sort of at least explain were there lines running to the Sun TV office or not? Yes or no? It's a very simple open and shut answer. Second, if there was a line, why did they withhold it in the charge sheet? If there was no line, then that part is taken care of. But what was the purpose of having 764 high-speed lines in the residence? Now, I honestly can't understand whether the CBI has actually applied its mind, or there are other reasons for them not wanting to actually present a strong case. But this is further to the cases like 2G. You saw what happened in 2G, where in the judgment itself, the judge had to mention that it looked like the CBI wasn't keen on prosecuting the case as they should have, because they were showing a distinct lack of interest. It's very unfortunate that multiple cases, we are seeing this time after time after time, that look, the judge can only give a verdict based on the evidence that is presented to them. If the evidence is not presented, then no judge can ever give a verdict of guilty. So I think there is a serious need to revisit what is happening in the CBI, what is happening in the investigative agencies. And at the end of the day,
Ashutosh Mishra, before I go back to Narayan Tirupati, now you understand, Narayan Tirupati, what is expected. Now you understand, sir, how are open and shut cases being allowed to lapse as far as the CBI is concerned and the prosecution is concerned? Why shouldn't open and shut? Simple question that's being asked is, this itself merits a trial. How did somebody have 764 connections and a parallel exchange? How is the CBI not been able to force a trial only on this aspect? Forget the underlying cable and whether or not there was illegal data uplink. Ashutosh.
When was this case filed? When was the charge sheet filed?
Yeah, so
Ashutosh.
Yeah, the problem that I see as a law-abiding citizen, and the problem I see as a law-abiding citizen is that in the court of law, you are innocent until proven guilty. While in the court of people, the present trend is that you are guilty unless proven innocent. So here, in all these cases, whether it be 2G or today in Marans have been exonerated in Aircel case also. So what is happening is that the bureaucrats, either the bureaucrats who are following the case, they are not doing their work properly, or the bureaucrats who made those allegations at that time, they went overboard and there was actually no case. So how, as an ordinary person, should we interpret it? So the way I see it, the bureaucrats should be held accountable if they make a charge and it doesn't stick, then also the bureaucrats should be hauled up, because it should not be a case where we keep blaming the officer of the day. Bureaucracy is at fault.
No, but the point is, Ashutosh, I am very simple, sir. It was not the bureaucrats who came out and alleged corruption. It was not the bureaucrats who came out and promised conviction. It was the politicians at that point in time. So the politicians need to answer what are you going to do? Because at the end of the day, it was the BJP which came out and said we will ensure that corruption is punished. We will ensure that there are corruption, there are convictions. 2G case, BSNL Max's case, be it the FIPB clearances, be it now the telephone exchange scam, all of these remain scams only in public domain for political discourse. Can't be proven in court. Narayana Tirupati.
That's what the politicians believe, that they will make allegations and get away with it. Shoot and scoot.
Narayanan Tirupati, limited time. Narayanan Tirupati.
It's incredible that CBI did not ask why.
See, I would like to ask you one question. If politicians can punish, if politicians can convict, then you mean to say if media can convict? So if media cannot give judgments, politicians cannot give judgments, only the court can give judgments. That is what has happened. We have seen in jail.
Sir, my point is, if only the court can give judgment, then don't promise conviction, don't promise that corruption will be punished, because corruption is not being punished currently, sir. Alleged corruption is not being punished. Mr. Dayanidhi Maran has now got a discharge. He's got his discharge appeal upheld by the court. He now stands vindicated. But those who raise the voice against corruption today are standing there mute and wondering what happened. You were supposed to close an open and shut case. You have not been able to do that. Saravanan, Sumansi Raman, Ashutosh Mishra and Mr. Narayanan Tirupati. This is not going away. Marans after 2G. This is a serious issue, sir. You are not being able to live on the promises. Don't make promises that you can't deliver. Simple message, sir. If you are saying corruption will be punished, then ensure conviction. Let there be an appeal and let there be a reinvestigation and let those officers be pulled up. That's what needs to be done. Thank you very much.